you're watching Infocus, the second special edition of 2022. This program has been brought to you by EMTV with the support of the Media for Development Initiative. And our topic of discussion for this month is autonomy and decentralization.
Autonomy is a form of decentralized government, and the main objectives of decentralization are to improve the delivery of services by the public sector and to enhance the quality of life for citizens. According to the Papua New Guinea National Research Institute, or PNG-NRI, under their Autonomy and Decentralization Research Project, the decentralization of government services with a view to enabling greater participation of people in decision-making, especially in resource allocation, at sub-national government levels as well as at national level, as this continues to be a challenge.
We've gone through about 3 different reforms in trying to address or have effective decentralized systems of government. The first one was in 1976, immediately after independence, and the Constitutional Planning Committee had recommended for a system, and so that the provincial and local level government system came into effect in 1977, and we had a premier-style system where there were provincial assemblies, and in about 5 provinces, they elected the premiers directly from the electorate.
Papua New Guinea is also known for its rugged geographical terrain, which imposes to some degree issues of service delivery to its people.
Geographically, there are swamps, mountains, and so communities and people are quite separated in distances. In some areas, they're close together, so service delivery and institutions of government are easy to install and put in place. In other areas, it's huge challenges. So they recognize that a central national government could not be able to respond effectively. So the call for decentralized forms of government.
The question remains, would autonomy and the decentralization of governments address the issues of service delivery and enhance the quality of life for citizens?
We have with me on set today the Governor for NCD, Honorable Poes Pakopse. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, so as a matter of discussions on autonomy and decentralization, in Mosby, the NCDC Act came into being and provided some level, to some extent, decentralization and autonomy to do some of the functions that the other provinces don't have. Your experience coming in as the governor, how has it been?
It's been a great experience, as you can see what we have done in the city, but also it's challenging because now we have all this political wrangling going on, and so on. So, it's not a smooth ride for me. At the same time, too, we have the perception that held by some of my colleagues in Parliament that maybe national government spending too much money in the city and not so much in the province, and that's something a bit misplaced. But this is what I have to deal with, and get the city going and get to move towards achieving our vision. But otherwise, it's for me a great experience, a great challenge for me to preside over our capital city and try to lift it to be truly a national capital. But I can share with you, in terms of a governance system, how we have faced this challenge, how it is different from the provinces, and now perhaps the provinces could learn from us. I'm not sure we can learn from the provinces. I know virtually what is happening in the provinces, and me and my colleagues, governors, we have some strong views about what could be done in the provinces in order to lift the capacity and ability of the provincial governments to be able to govern and deliver at their level. So, Brad, I think one of the starting points perhaps I could start off with, I could say this, that we can't run the country and lift the country from Waigan. We need decentralization as much as we need national cohesion and coordination. That's not, incompatible with each other. We just have to work out the division of labor, what the national government powers that they should have, their roles and responsibility, what the ministers should be doing, their focus and priority, and what the provincial government should be doing. And now we have another equation with the districts. It's causing a lot of tension.
All right, so Governor, we'll come to that. In terms of the NCDC Act that was established, and NCDCs now have some powers which is different from the provinces. Tell us about those powers and functions that NCDC has.
All right. First point I want to stress about our national capital is this, that under Section 4 of the Constitution, it's pillar number 4. So we have the three arms of government at the top, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, and after that, the national capital district. And then we have number 5, which is the provincial government. So in the scheme of things, it is very clear that the founders of our state wanted the national capital district to be above and a bit different to the provincial government. And so the governance system that we have in the city is designed in that way. It's also as a historical background too, that before we used to have the Port Moresby City Council, but the parliament changed that because we had a bad experience. Too much politics prevented service and development from taking place. So Parliament in its wish don't change it to become a commission. And by a commission, we have a separate act. And we are partly managed by an elected government and an appointed government. So in that sense, we are different from everyone. We don't have LLG. We don't have all this third layer government. So we just have, it's a second tier government, governed by a board. We don't have a provincial assembly, provincial executive council. We just have a board. The board is both an executive and also a legislature. So it can make laws, and it has executive powers, which we share together as the board. But also, for me as the chairman, I have some powers too that I can use in order to maintain the government and also run the city. But the main difference, apart from that, some of the difference that we have is that the law, for example, NCDC Act allow us to, for example, the difference we have is that we can raise capital by getting loans without going through the national government, getting approval from, let's say, the treasurer or the minister for intergovernment or finance minister or the NEC. That gives us an advantage where we are able to raise our revenue through loan, either domestic loan or getting it offshore, to enable us to run the city and sustain the city, adding on to the revenue that we have. Another difference that we have, well, it's not so much a difference, but now all the provincial government, including NCDC, we get direct GST funding from IRC on a monthly basis. The difference between us and all the provincial government is that NCDC, because of its economy, generates more GST than everybody else. But the national government caters for the differences by giving all the functional grants to all the provincial government except NCD. We don't get education, health, agriculture, infrastructure grants from the national government. All the provincial government, they get from the national government. There is also a mechanism under a particular specific law which enables the national government to fairly distribute GST that might be raised mainly in the city.
Hence, the ability to take care of your own business in the city.
Like you could say that the city is self-sustaining. the residents of the city sustain the city themselves, because the main source of revenue, I think 90% or maybe 95% of our revenue comes from GST, and GST is mainly paid by corporate and individual residents in the city, so we are self-sustaining city. Sometimes we get grants or some, like for example with DSIP and PSIP, we get that from the national government, but otherwise we get funds directly from IRC, which come from the residents, so we are self-sustaining in the sense.
We'll take a short break and come back on the other side with more. Thanks for joining us on Infocus. Still, discussions on autonomy and decentralization. There is a current research being undertaken by the NRI on autonomy and decentralization, which hopes to provide insights on what needs to be done, and what they find out from the research will be put forward to the policymakers to take action. Now, here's a video of Dr. Thomas Webster speaking about this research.
Bring the research information available around studies that have been done on autonomy and decentralization and help that to inform our discussions. And so our objective is to facilitate an informed conversation on issues around autonomy and decentralization of government, and bring out those issues and have some honest debate and discussions about what are the issues, what are the potential for improvement, and then our plan for moving forward. Decentralization and autonomy of governments are not unique to Papua New Guinea. These are issues that are affecting developed countries as well as developing countries. And there have been a lot of work and studies done outside of PNG. So what we would like to do is bring some of those research work that's been done to help inform and help us analyze our situation here. And so we would be able to do that through bringing those studies on board to inform us and providing a framework which we are going to use in order to analyze the issues. This framework has been developed from work done out externally, from an analysis of autonomous government or decentralized government arrangements in other parts of the world. And they outline that these are the main issues through which, or lenses or eyes through which to see those issues, have the in-depth discussions, and be able to put recommendations forward on that.
Before the country's constitution was formed, all sabe man blumi go out. Na ilain sample long all slow something long arpla country na. Now you me got one pla homegrown constitution. Now you me look long systems long government. Do you think it's right? It's the right time for us to actually do this in the country?
Yeah, Brett, absolutely. If you look at the well-developed countries like the United States or a lot of countries in Europe, Australia near us, you will see that they have a system of decentralized government that empowers the state or the provinces to be able to function and contribute to national outcome. It's a clear recognition of the fact that we can run a state like the USA, Australia, from a centralized government. They have not acknowledged that from the beginning, and they've organized their state in that way, dividing powers between the federal government or the national government and the provinces of the state. In the case of PNG, we are a diverse nation. We come from, tribal, communities, and people tend to be more affiliated to the tribe and clan. It will take us a long time to have national cohesion. We're getting there, but it'll still take a long time. And because of this diversity, it's even more compelling for us to have a system of government that reflects that the fact that it is not possible for us to run the country from the center. When we make that conscious decision and clearly arrange the division of labor as to what is retained centrally, what goes to the provinces, then we'll start getting it right. Up to now, we chose a system that is not totally decentralized or not totally a federal system. It's a unitary, decentralized, and it's confusing. It's confusing everybody. For me, I think that we should just clear it up. Maybe we can have a system that is a clearly federal system. These are the government powers of the national government. These are the powers of the provinces, and these are the ones that we shared. It's provided for in the current organic law, but in practice, we're not doing it.
But
So-
Governor, in the Constitution, the preamble itself outlines that from the start,
Yeah.
we're different, but
Yeah.
from different nations living as one.
How we have rolled it out, we have not rolled it out in a way that is very clear. So there is a lot of confusion. So we created provincial government, but after all these years, we have not really empowered the provincial government with the legal power, with the financial power, with the administrative powers, so that they can function effectively as a government, providing services and delivering outcomes, provincial outcomes, and also contributing to national outcome. If you look at the powers now, one of our biggest complaints now, my colleagues, provinces, we are just paper tigers. We are governors without powers. We cannot raise revenue. Our legislative powers is very limited. Our administrative powers, we cannot even appoint, my colleagues especially, cannot even appoint our administrators. We cannot sack them. If we want to discipline them or sack them, we have to ask the NEC. And imagine how you're going to get this type of administrative process going to NEC. It doesn't happen. So it's hard for us to, discipline our public servants. The provinces cannot appoint their own treasurer or, financial controller. Unlike NCD, we appoint our own financial controller. But they can't. The financial controller or the treasurer is an officer of the Department of Finance. He reports to the Secretary Department of Finance, not to the governor or to the administrator. So this is creating a lot of tension. And so the provincial government, up to now, they are just paper government. The reality is that we are saying one thing, but we are doing something else. We are centralizing power in the national government. Now we came up with this Provincial Health Authority Act. We tried so many laws about how to run health services. This one. Now we come with another one. It says that we share power between governor and the health minister. But in reality, it's still national government running the show.
Of course.
Even here in the city, because they don't give the money for the PHA to the provincial government, so we manage the PHA. They keep it, so, the PHA, the CEO of the PHA, do they listen to the governor or to the administrator? No, right? They listen to the Secretary of Health and the Minister for Health. So
Of course.
how are we going to run
These are a sort of issues that we hope to, bring to light and then for the researchers to look at. Now, look, we will continue on with these discussions on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching Infocus. Discussion still with our good governor from NCD, the Honorable Powes Pakop. Before the break, you outlined some of the challenges that we are facing not only in Mosby but elsewhere with regards to the establishment of authorities and who they report to the national level or to the governor's office in the provinces. Now, one other thing, over the years there have been 3 changes in terms of decentralization and giving more autonomy to the provinces. The recent one being the DDA, establishment of the DDAs in 2014. Your take on that?
Yeah, this is another disaster in the making. What is this DDA? Is it a legislative body, or is it an executive body, or is it a government, or is it an administrative body? Or this is not very clear because it doesn't fit into the scheme of things. What is provided in the Constitution is that we have a 3-tier government. We have the national government, we have the provincial government, we have the 3rd-level government, LLGs. Okay, where does the DDA fit in that equation? So the DDA is it's got no branch. It doesn't connect to the stem, which is the Constitution. It's something, a limb of its own. That's why it's creating confusion.
And in Governor, when you look at it, the question comes out that if it was established, it's established to deliver services. Is it doing that at the moment?
Yeah, I don't know, because like in the city, it doesn't apply to us. Ourselves and ABG, Autonomous Region of Bougainville, it doesn't apply to us. But in the provinces, I know from my colleagues that it's not working, because now the national government is allocating funding directly to the district through the DDA, and the DDA don't have the mechanism for, in terms of planning and acquittal and accountability and proper procurement. Unlike the provinces, when the funds come to the provinces, we have to present it as a budget to the assembly. We get approval from the assembly by a proper budget, and then we get approval from the minister before we start spending public funds. There's no legal mechanism or provided for the DDAs. So now we have a situation where funding is going directly to the district. The DDAs don't have a mechanism for procurement, so they just issue engagement left, right, center. What happens to, is there proper scoping, proper costing, how they spend the money and they, acquit for it? What happens to all the equipments, for example, that they purchase? Is it going to be in the inventory of the LLG or in inventory of the provincial government? No. And what has been happening since DDA came last time is that MPs are procuring all these assets. There's no proper inventory. When those who lost in 2017, what happened to all the equipments? God knows. It's you can have a wild guess.
Course.
But it's not there in the district. So this is a problem that we are having. A lot of money now is going directly to the DDAs, but there is no mechanism in place. And then it is not reflected in the provincial budget. So the governors cannot bring the open members or the DDAs to account. So this is something we say, why don't we get the money into the provincial budget so they present their plan and we can release it, and then there is a proper procurement. We governors now, we have to go through this National Procurement Commission procedure.
NPC. Yeah.
It's another crazy system. But the problem with this NPC is that this is the problem with the NPC at the provincial level. The NPC creates a committee at the provincial level, which can now award contract up to 10 million. And the committee is made up of public servants. So, Bradley, this is a problem. The public servants, they do the scoping, they do the costing, they submitted the scope and everything to themselves, and then they make the decision, and then they are going to go and implement. This is a recipe for corruption.
Look, the governor, the MPs, the members of parliament will argue otherwise on the other side.
No. The situation is this, that at the provincial level, the power is not given to the PEC. But at the national level, anything over 10 million goes through the procurement commission, and then who makes the decision? NEC. So why should NEC make a decision over a contract that is 10 million plus, and at the provinces, we cannot get the PEC? So this is a situation where the PEC should receive, in my opinion, or what we have been suggesting, is that the public servants, their role is to do scoping and costing and submit the tender to the PEC. The PEC makes a decision and they go and implement. So they cannot be scope and costing and then
implement.
No, they decide and then they implement. Yeah. Where's the check and balance?
Yeah. All right, so Governor, we'll just see a quick video from Dr. Thomas Webster.
I commissioned a study in 2016 that was conducted in 2017 around the effectiveness of the district development authorities and the provincial governments. And the DDA Act was approved in 2014. Clearly, it's still a work in progress, but the observations were that it needs time to implement those and in order to realize the benefits. But at the early stage, they were saying there's still a lot of things to be sorted out, and so they were not working as effectively as desired. That's the story of reforms in decentralizing government. And one of we started off in 1976 with the first provincial government system. We were not happy with that as things were progressing, and then we replaced it in 1995. And we're not happy with the way things were going from the 1995 reforms, and introduced the 2014 DDA Act to improve on that. And clearly that's also having some dissatisfaction, and we want to have new electorates or additional electorates, and also now that this report, the CLRC report, and the Provincial Department of Provincial and Local Level Government, clearly saying that those reforms and the organic law is clearly inappropriate. It's not working, and so we need a new organic law, a new way of looking at the institutional arrangements.
Thoughts there echoed by the National Research Institute. We'll take a short break and come back on the other side with more of the discussions. You're watching Infocus, the second special edition in 2022, brought to you by EMTV and supported by our good partners from the Media Development Initiative. I'm still with me in the studio is Governor Poes Pakop. Governor, look, before the break, we saw comments from the NRI on what's happening with the DDAs. It's now commissioned a research into this. 5 pointers which it hopes to look at and identify. Representation is one. If it looks to identify some of the problems with the current systems that we have of governance in the country. Sharing of powers and functions, what works best for us in this country. Also trying its best to look at the entrenchment. Financing, you've mentioned some of the funding mechanisms that's happening at the provincial level, national level, and also at the DDAs. And going forward, how do we implement this sort of changes?
Reforms such as decentralization will take 10 to 20 years. So we need an institution of government that will oversee and make sure that these changes are continuing and being implemented right through. So those 5 areas provide the parameters around which we would need to look at our experiences in the past. Are they, are the areas that we worked on, are they appropriate? Are the institutions of representation that we have, are they appropriate? Do we need to change? How effectively are they working? Are the division of powers and functions very clear, and do people know who is responsible for what? And then hold the relevant authorities accountable. We need accountable systems of government so that we know who is responsible for a piece of road, who is responsible for a health center, so that and the operations of that health center, so that that level of government can be held accountable. At the moment, it's very difficult to place responsibility and accountability. And so once we have those things and they're very clear, then it's not to have the implementation of that. So I guess what we're doing is we're providing a framework based on the international literature and saying research done elsewhere inform us that these are the areas to look at. What does the research say about those particular areas, the 5 areas, and help us to look back over the past 46 years and where we have traveled. How can we, what are the things that have gone wrong? What are the options and possibilities for improvements? And then plan a new course for the future.
Your take on what's actually been said with regards to DDAs?
Brady, I think first point I want to say about that is that in terms of the provincial government, we can do a review now, but the fact is that the provincial government has never been allowed to really be supported and function as we have intended in the Constitution or the organic law. So to review it is really not, cannot be total, because the provincial government has never functioned, to the extent that it can. So it won't be a real proper review. But in terms of the DDA, I would like to look at it this way. Perhaps if we try to look at it positively, I would like to suggest it in this way, that perhaps what we are indirectly saying is that we should get rid of the LLGs. And then let's bite the bullet and do that. Because maybe at the local level, we don't need a legislative body or an executive body at the local level, in the ward level, at the local level. We just need a service delivery agency, similar to maybe during the colonial time. So let's make the decision. Let's have only a two-tier government, national government, provincial government, and we have DDA. But we cannot have DDA and also LLG. It's creating problems. I know some MPs and my colleagues, they're saying that, but we need some leaders at the local level. Yeah, we can have the committee, committee system at the villages. They have committees and they have the traditional structure. There will always be leadership there. But in terms of government services, government delivery of local outcomes and so on, both social and whatever physical infrastructure, perhaps we don't need LLG government system there. And I want to say this because it's our experience in the city. We don't have a LLG, but we have no problem. We are functioning, we are delivering, and we are saving costs. And this is probably part of our problem in PNG, that I want to suggest that we are overgoverned. We have 11 MPs now. Now the constitution says the limit is 120. So I thought we were going to have some women MPs reserved, but now everybody's scrambling to divide their electorate. So I don't know whether there'll still be some portion for women MPs. And then we have all these provincial, MPs.
You spoke about women MPs.
Yeah.
Do you think if we do have changes in the system of government in this country for decentralization in future, do you think more women will be elected into parliament?
I think that the playing field is not equal as against, men and women. This is a reality we must acknowledge. And we are in pretension in PNG to pretend that it's an equal playing field. Men and women, they can come in and, women can be easily elected. It's for the reason that we have this positive discrimination in other countries. Like, look at the country of Rwanda. After the genocide in the 90s, they started giving, all the reserved seat to women. Now, look at the difference that they've made in the 90s up to now compared to PNG. Now, about 30% or 40% of the parliament is women. 30 to 40% of the executive government is women. And look at the gains that they've made. But in PNG, we pretend. But anyway, Bradley, there's another story we can go on and on.
Of course.
Coming back to the DDAs, if you take us back, in our experience in the city, we don't have DDAs, but we are able to deliver. So I've been suggesting to my colleague that why don't you all, instead of seeing NCDC as a prototype government, or maybe not a totally government, but if you all look at how we are running the city and the governance system we have, it might be a good model of government that you all in the province must prescribe to. And then we can fit in the DDA in that equation. We have only the provincial government and the DDAs in the district.
And we've seen that work in Mosby, where projects have been co-funded by you and the open members.
And in Mosby, the procurement system is one. And the open MPs, they don't have a different account. We have only one account. That is, all the funds are held with NCDC. We don't, national government like Treasury or Finance, when they remit the money, it doesn't go to accounts in Mosby Northeast or Mosby South or Mosby Northwest. No, it goes to NCDC.
One basket.
And these colleagues of mine, they have to submit, everything through NCDC. It is monitored, and all the procedures or process of procurement go through the same system.
All right.
So it's working for us. Why can't the province do it?
Okay, Governor Pakop's suggestion there on his thoughts on what should be done for others right throughout Papua New Guinea. We'll take a short break now and come back with more on the other side. You're watching Infocus, the 1 hour special discussions on autonomy and decentralization on Infocus this time around. Governor, before the break, you gave some ideas of what's actually happening in Mosby and the NCD and what can be copied or modeled in other provinces as well. That's something that will be put forward in the research that's ongoing. Your thoughts on that? Bigger electorates in Papua New Guinea. We spoke about many MPs trying to break the electorates apart to make it more easier for them to deliver. Are you seeing this in Moresby, where Moresby Northeast is one of the biggest electorates in the city? Of course, 3/4 of that made up of squatter settlements.
Okay, on that specific question, for Moresby, I see it not for Northeast, but for our indigenous people, Motuans and Koitabus. I've been pushing through, a proposal to allocate open seat for them, and I hope that the Boundaries Commission, which sits every 10 years now, it is going to submit a report to Parliament. I hope they capture that. I think in Northeast, of course, it's a big electorate. The population is increasing, but maybe not now. Maybe in the future, when the population actually increase to a level where they deserve another seat, then we can consider that. Mostly, South too is extending in terms of population. You can see, house and people, going into Dogura, going to Gereka, into Bautama, and that's all in mostly South. So, but I think the electorate constituent in the city that deserves an open seat is Motukoida, where, for example, the chairman of Motukoida Assembly can become also an MP representing our indigenous Motu and Kotabu people, because I believe they deserve it.
And that's another form of autonomy or decentralization within the city itself.
Yeah, but it also enables them to have direct access to national funds, because they applied, and the situation in the city is a national issue. It's not just a city issue where, the parliament created the Motukoida Assembly in 2008 and making an autonomous government. But it did not give them funding. It lumped it back to NCDC. So we have to fund the city, and we have to fund Motukoida Assembly, and we now have to share our resources with Central Province, and Gulf wants it too, and God knows how many more, they will start demanding if we keep on allowing this. Creating an open seat for them enables them to, at least like PSIP and DSIP comes directly to them. NCDC will keep on giving resources to them because we have a moral, legal, political obligation.
And also, it makes the Motukoida Assembly more functional.
Yes.
In terms of its delivery of services.
Yeah, and if we are going to share resources like this debate about GST, for me, the body and the people who deserve more GST is the Motukoida people. Central Province, that's another story. But I don't. But
the decision has already been done.
Yeah, it's still in the air, because there have to be an amendment in another law. But Bradley, before you close your program, I've raised some points about the provincial government, which might be like complaining or the challenges. We should talk about solution, and I think the solution are quite clear in terms of the provincial government. To get us, the provincial government, to function, we should give them powers, like they should appoint their own administrators, and they should be responsible for their discipline, termination, and maybe if there is going to be a right of appeal, it goes to Public Service Commission, or if NEC wants to be a right of appeal, that should be the body. But we shouldn't, the provinces have to grow. They have to become real substantive government. They've got to, deliver services and, outcomes at the provincial level. Right now, we don't give them the power, so how can they function? So administrators be appointed by the provinces, the treasurers be appointed by the provinces. As I suggested also, in terms of procurement, the PEC should be allowed to award contract up to 10 million or even more. Because like, for me, I represent the city. My mandate in terms of voter base is a lot more than the open MPs who go and become the cabinet. But they are going to make decisions over a large chunk of money, 10 million plus, and me as the provincial governor, I'm restricted to 10 million. So we should change that, the Procurement Act. Provinces too should be allowed to raise capital even by loan. We should allow them to do that. we should also, like now we have a bottleneck in national planning where we are going to get access from access to development funding. We have to go through national planning. It's a nightmare to go through national planning to get access to, donor funding on a bilateral or multilateral basis. They should allow us to, like maybe to bid up to 50 million or 100 million. We can go straight directly to the, bilateral partner, whether it's Asia Development Bank or Australian government or, EU. Right now, everything goes through the national planning and it doesn't work. I'm telling you all. People of PNG should know it doesn't work. It's a bottleneck that squeezes everybody out.
And during the discussions, Governor Pakop, you talked about not having these changes, but you're suggesting some of these changes now.
Yeah, there's a, no, these are the powers that can go to the provincial government. The LLG, if we do away with LLG and replace it with DDA, I'm happy. Because I think at the lower level, we should not be talking about legislative powers or executive power. We should be talking about service and development and delivering outcomes.
Of course. And just a final one from me, Governor. When we're talking about decentralization and autonomy and giving more powers to the lower arms of government, do you think we have the capacity to actually deliver at the lower levels?
Well, at the provincial level, I think we have come, 46 years now, and provincial MP, for us governors, we understand. We know our responsibility, and I can see some of my colleagues advocating for autonomy. I know that their intention is not to break away from PNG. But if we do not make the system work, if we do not take the decentralization seriously, some provinces might say, okay, it's not working in PNG. This is the flip side that our colleagues at the national government are not understanding, because they will find that why are we wasting our time? All the money is going to Waigani. They are not distributing to it. The power they keep there, they're not giving it. We are, we could be better off if we have this power. And why can't they trust us? So if we keep on centralizing the power, political, financial, legal, whatever power, administrative, we are going to drive the provinces out.
Look, it's been a pleasure having you. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
All right, so this has been In Focus. We would have wanted a lot more guests seated here up front, but as you know, the current research on autonomy and decentralization is ongoing. The researchers are currently putting together that report, hence their unavailability. And also, it's Parliament Week, and all the MPs of are at Parliament House at the time of this recording. From all of us here, it's been a pleasure. If you have comments on tonight's program, you can email us on the email now showing, or you can engage with us social. From all of us here, pleasant viewing. Stay safe. Bye-bye.